Our guest for this hour is seated, and we'll be having a conversation about INM at work. Mwihaki Wachira is here with us this morning. She is the Group General Manager, Marketing and Communications, INM Bank Limited. So we're having a conversation this hour about INM at work. Before we even get into the elements and factors of that, INM at work, what is that? Sounds like a buzzword or what we
Wow.
Yeah.
So INM at work is what we call our workplace banking solutions, right? So in both public and private sector institutions, there's always the employer and the employees, right? So INM at work is a solution that brings in these two people together and offers lending and what we call transactional banking services for the employees. So how that works is employers sign up to INM at work so that then their employees can benefit from this wide range of services and products that INM has at preferential rates, at preferred service, quick turnaround time. So it's a platform that enables employees of the organizations that have signed up to the platform to access loans and to also access different form of accounts and other financial services from INM. Yeah.
So you're dealing as a block. It's not like different individuals who are running to you say, can we do this? But you deal with blocks of organizations and say, come, you
Yes.
and all your people, let us offer you the service, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter the cadre of the employees. Once the block comes in, then we tailor make and we give tailor-made products for each employee, depending on how much they're earning, what they want to do with the money. So it's just the organization comes in and brings in, whether it's 200, 1,000, 50, even 10 employees. We work all the way from small businesses to very big corporate organizations, even multinational organizations, government institutions as well, parastatal, so we don't discriminate. But when you come in as a block, then we are able to offer preferential rates especially.
That's a pretty nifty idea. How did you come up with that?
Workplace banking has actually been there for quite a while, but in terms of government, right? So your TSCs, your police service, judiciary, they have had these agreements. Yes, they've had these agreements with banks for a very long time. Just that the private sector took a bit longer to catch up on it. And for INM, what we decided to do is extend it even to the smaller businesses, because employees are employees, right? It doesn't matter whether they're working for a big organization or a smaller one. Everyone should have access to affordable financing, and that's what INM is about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you say that you're going to come as a block, the understanding is that if your organization comes in and says, well, we're going to have a chat with INM, furnish this for everybody, is it guaranteed? We're just waiting for HR and the folks upstairs to sign the paperwork. Then if I walk in and say, I am employee of Ndu Oko Enterprises, come, then it is guaranteed that everybody in the office then has access to these services?
Yes. So once the employer signs up as a block, then every employee has access. All that differs then is how much the employee will get, depending on their payslip, other loan obligations that they have. So there are those calculations that have to be done, and it's immediate, right? When you walk in alone, you can still access the unsecured personal loan, right? But then you'd have to be rated as your own, on your own merit, right? Based on your own payslip, you'd have to have a waiting period of about 6 months for us to assess how your account operates, how the money comes in and goes out. But when you come in through your organization and the organization signs up, it is immediate, because you open an account, your salary is coming through INM. So the salary is being paid, the loan is being deducted at source, and you're left with the balance of your salary. So it's actually very straightforward.
What hoops does the organization have to jump through to meet the requirements to be a member of this club?
So what happens is the organization just meets with INM, with the workplace banking team, and they submit organizational documents like registration documents, audited accounts, etc. And then you're onboarded onto the platform, and then submits the list of the employees that are eligible to partake of the loan, right? And then each individual employee will then apply individually and say, I'm Mwihaki and organization XYZ, I want to apply for this loan. And then we just cross-match the data, and then we give you what you are eligible for, and it is disbursed immediately to your account. Once your first salary checks in, we deduct, and life goes on, right? So that's all that is required. It's a very straightforward process. Doesn't take more than a couple of days from when the organization signs up to when the individuals can start applying for the loans.
Okay.
One of the things that we've witnessed in this country, within the banking industry, is how banks seem to have drifted away from their very fundamental business. That's the buying and selling of money. And part of the reason is because the government has presented itself as the biggest trading partner that banks have. So when it comes to individuals benefiting from banks, well, the story is that they do, but one doesn't see it as often as one did at the time. And the reference here is the President Kibaki era. Okay. Now, are we saying that when you're talking about workplace banking, that my reference is not a time of the past. My reference is the fundamental functions of a bank. Are we saying that I&M are looking and saying, we want to understand that the principal person we want to deal with is this person, and we want this person to benefit from the services that we provide. But since this person is found within a certain workplace, then we want to ensure that they benefit by virtue of being in that workplace.
Correct.
Is that what I hear you to be saying?
That is correct. So this is one proposition that you can benefit because of the workplace, right? Because of the strength of the organization, because of coming in with numbers based on the organization, even if it's a small business, right? But that's not the only proposition that I&M gives to individuals who want to access money. So this particular one called I&M at Work or Workplace Banking, yes, you come in through the organization. However, you can still come in as yourself, right? And then apply for an unsecured loan. Just that then it would take longer because we are assessing you as an individual. We have to see how your accounts operate for the period of 6 months that I had mentioned, for example. But even we also have other propositions like loans available on the phone, like on the app. Once we have seen your banking history for about 6 months, for both small businesses and individuals, you can actually apply for a loan. We actually pre-qualify you and tell you upfront, your loan limit is X, 2 million, it's 4 million, it's 5 million. And you apply for it on the mobile phone. You don't have to come to any branch, and you repay every month. So we've got different propositions. This specific one speaks to the workplace banking because we have seen these so many organizations with so many employees. People need access to financing, but there's no vehicle that allows people to access this financing based on where they work from. It was traditionally reserved, so to say, for government institutions and parastatals for a long time. Yeah.
There are businesses that probably don't fall into the category of what we are saying. For purposes of description, they may be referred to as SMEs of sorts. Now, many such small businesses may not have the audited accounts that you seek. They may not meet certain masters. How then does I&M deal with such businesses? How do you get them to the point where they can actually meet these requirements that you have, and by so doing benefit from what is on offer?
So that's part of the journey that we walk with the small businesses. So there's two fronts to it. If the small business wants to apply for money, like for working capital for the business itself, that's a solution we also offer. We offer stock financing, we offer overdraft facilities, we offer the loan I was referring to on our mobile banking app that the business itself can access for purposes of moving the business forward and buying stock or just meeting the day-to-day operational costs of the business, right? So we work with small businesses and tell them, these are all the things that you need to do. This is how your repayments need to look like. This is how you need to submit how your turnovers look like, so that we ensure that they meet the criteria to get loans for their business. And then for their employees as well, we also do that financial wellness consultations with them and tell them, even if you're not coming on board on the workplace banking program, but you as an employee of small business city, for example, right? This is the only thing you need to do. These are the documents you need to submit. This is how we will enable you to get the money that you need. Yeah, so we don't say it's black and white, it's cast in stone, these are the requirements. We have conversations with businesses, we have conversations with people, and we get to a point where we are able to lend them the money based on what they need to do with the money. Yeah.
There have been, what we've seen in the markets, it has been, last couple of years has been difficult, isn't it? Economy-wise, the power in people's pockets has dwindled considerably, significantly. And unfortunately, that has led to default, a lot of default. Not because people wanted to, but situation almost forced that to happen economically. You might have a few bad eggs in the basket, sure, but by and large, people who default did that because of a depressed situation. How do you handle that, whereby a lot of these people may fall into that basket and would be some members of this organization who want further credit to offset this, sort this out? How then do you take those individuals who come under the umbrella of an organization into consideration?
Okay. So the best thing about workplace banking or I&M at work, right, is that when you come in through the organization, actually the rates of defaults are actually much lower unless someone gets retrenched or loses their job. But as long as they're in active employment, the payments are at source, right? So when your salary is being paid, the loan is being repaid. So it's most of the time people get into default because of maybe poor financial management sometimes, or they forget to pay and then the date lapses, you know. But the beauty of this I&M at work is that it's deducted as your salary is being paid. So unless you're out of a job, it's highly unlikely that you would then default. If unfortunately you do get retrenched, for example, or lose your job, then the best thing is to contact the bank immediately, right? And say, this is where I am at now. I've lost my job or I've been retrenched. If you've been retrenched, there's always a retrenchment cover. There's insurance that covers the loan repayments for a certain period of time. But if you've lost your job completely, then you come in and have a conversation and we see how to restructure. The other thing that I&M at work does is we do takeovers and buyouts. So if someone is unhappy elsewhere, right, with the loan that they have, or they want to access a higher limit from I&M which is not available where they have, they can come in and we do a restructure or a buyout of their loan proposition. And because our tenures are higher in terms of loan repayment, in terms of the number of months, and also the limits are higher, then you even stand to benefit. Because as you've said, 5 million today is not 5 million 2 years ago. And that really was the insight why we increased our limit to 10 million shillings. Because for a long time, most banks were at between 4 million to 6 million shillings. But we woke up and said, 6 million 2 years ago certainly isn't 6 million today. So let's increase this limit so that people can actually access the same level of funds they would have a few years back and are able to reach their life goals.
What if they're individuals who've defaulted? What if they're individuals who've had a previous loan and got in a spot of trouble and want to be given a new lease of life, as it were?
So that then would have to go through, we still rely on what we call CRB data, right? To also cross-check, are you in good credit terms? If you're not, then again, we'd have to have a conversation. You'd sort of have to regularize or show how you're going to regularize your credit history, because certainly the credit history cannot be, wished away or forgotten. But again, it's about, we have conversations with people, and our aim is to have people have financial wellness, right? And understand the importance of paying back loans on time if they're totally unable to have candid conversations with your bank so that you don't get blacklisted, so that you're able to borrow again after a certain period of time. Yeah. But if you go back home and you have a loan and you just keep quiet and hope for the problem to go away, it doesn't go away. Have the conversation with the bank. Yeah.
One of the things that perhaps COVID has taught us is how business can be precarious. And no one was prepared for it, and no one was prepared for the outcome. How prepared was I&M when everything had happened and the chips were now where chips normally lie when things have settled? And how has I&M helped their clients who were hit by COVID, and what process has it put in place to ensure that they've been able to work with their clients?
Okay. So I&M, first of all, is a very strong relationship bank. If you ask anybody the heritage of I&M, they will say it's the relationships that I&M has. And for a very long time, before we ventured into the retail space, we actually focused on businesses, right? Businesses and corporates, right? And they will attest to the fact that I&M really walked that COVID journey with them in terms of restructuring, in terms of having conversations about how do we get back to a repayment space, giving some windows, to guys who are really impacted. But our clients and even our NPS scores and our brand tracker scores for the period of COVID really showed that I&M really walked the journey with customers. So because we're a strong relationship bank, we are not the bank that gives you money and doesn't know. We know people. We know our customers by name. We know where they operate from. The relationship managers visit them. So that's how we tackled that COVID period, by having those consistent conversations with their customers. Yeah.
The reason why I asked the question is because if you walk with people who are already in business, there is always this discussion of future business. We had before, an hour before the one before this one, we were having something similar, something that has to do with young people, because it doesn't matter how you turn it, they represent the future. Now, SMEs represent the future, not me, they do.
They do.
And many of these SMEs have young people. Do you have products? Do you have a policy? Do you have a structure that deals with these individuals so that at the point when they are starting, or at the point when they're thinking of these ideas of what they want to do, you actually hold their hand and walk with them?
Yes. We do have that. And our SME, what we call small and medium sized segment within the bank, that's actually what they do on a day-to-day basis. I would say over 50% of the businesses that they work with are either owned by the young people, or the people running them or working for them are the young people, right? And that's all the conversations that we keep having with them, right? In terms of how to manage their finances from a business perspective, how to separate business and personal finances. If you're running it as a sole proprietor, you are the owner, you are it, but you are the employee, you are the owner, you are the accountant. How do you separate these two things? Because, for example, as I mentioned, we have propositions for businesses and for individuals. So if this person actually does a good job of separating the two, they can actually access two different loan amounts or loan propositions, as the business and as the individual. But if they mix everything up, then you can only access one, right? So we have those conversations with them. And with the young people, we tell them about our other propositions, home loans, for example. This is the time to start. If you start at 25, by the time 60, when the cutoff comes, this is, you have 35 years to actually buy several homes or repay. But if you wait and then at 45 then you're like, oh my, I need a home, then you only have 15 years, So having those conversations, that's what we consistently do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
Now, we've talked about, personal loan. There are other things that you then also do provide that can actually ease business, that can actually ease banking experience. What are those?
Okay. So the first one for personal customers, right? Like you guys. The biggest thing that we introduced this year is, once you're an I&M personal account holder, bank to M-Pesa or Airtel Money is free. So we are the only bank that officially waived those charges. Remember, at COVID, CBK had scrapped those charges. Then come December last year, charges were reintroduced. Kenyans were not happy. High cost of living, now transaction costs are back. So I&M, we had Kenyans and they were like, we've scrapped these charges. So now imagine you've been given your unsecured loan, or even just your normal salary. You have to pay your mama mboga. You have to pay your nanny. You have to send money to your folks. Your kid brother wants some pocket money. All these things. If you move that money from your bank to their M-Pesa or to Airtel Money, zero shillings. So really, really, we have testimonials from guys who are saying, in a month, I'm saving even up to 7,000 bob. Because I used to, every time, think about it, Uber, you're paying 300 bob, that transaction cost us like 13 shillings. Another transaction, 700 bob, 23 bob. Those small things, they add up to quite a bit of money.
Good grief.
So, again, game changer from I&M. Yeah. From the business side of things, right? Convenience. We have, as I said, pre-qualified businesses. You don't need to come and again have another conversation. Once you've seen your turnover, every month you get a refresh limit and you're told your loan limit now is X. It's Y. It's 2 million this month. It's 2.5 next month. You just apply for it on the app, the money gets deposited into your account, you move on with your business. Convenience. We have stock financing, right? Stock financing is for people who are in distribution of goods, right? Working with distributors, wholesalers. So you want to buy, you're a wholesaler, you want to buy stock from unga or sugar, right? From whoever is selling, but you don't have access to money. With I&M, we give you stock financing. So you get the money upfront, you go buy the goods, as you sell, you're repaying, right? Then we have something called transactional banking, which gives you, let's say, for example, a pay bill, right? That enables customers to pay directly to your pay bill, and that money hits your account directly. For large organizations that do a lot of checks, we've got a system called check scanning, right, under transactional banking that makes it easier again for organizations to process their checks. We even have bulk M-Pesa payments for corporates. So let's say you have casual laborers and there are 300 of them. Can you imagine your accountant every day paying each laborer 500 one by one on the phone? With this bulk thing, with the bulk payments, they just upload the Excel file with all the names and the phone numbers. The system runs through, pays everybody, gives you a report at the end of the day. So we've got fantastic solutions, be it for personal customers or for businesses.
Why go this way? And because I hear you, and it's almost like a puzzle whereby there's a missing piece, and for me it looks like a difficult economy created that missing piece, and then you say, okay, well, here we are, and then can we fit it? It seems as though you're going towards what the situation is telling you is an issue.
That is exactly what I&M is about, right? We have a commitment that we listen to the pulse of our consumers. What are people saying? What are they struggling with? What's the insight, right? What is their pain point? And we try and solve consumer problems. That is where the backbone of what we do, right? Because when you think about it, bank products and solutions across board will more or less be the same. The differentiating factor comes in how you use them to solve a consumer problem, a customer problem. And that's what makes them stick with you. That's what makes them trust you and believe in you, because you're actually helping them to make their life easier, to make their businesses run smoother. You're saving them some money in some form of way. You're making access to financing easier, but you're actually helping them solve what is their problem. And that's what at I&M we are committed to doing, solving customer problems. Yeah.
Okay, you talked about the housing. The housing issue is one of them. Folks want to see if they can own a little bit of real estate, and say, okay, so how are we going to go about this, and what is, some of the solutions that are there for people to come and take advantage of, considering again their might economically.
Okay, so we have an actual mortgage product or home loan solution that any individual can just come to I&M, and apply for, and that depends again on how much you're earning, and then we will do the calculations. How many years would you be eligible for? And it would actually enable you to buy a home and own a piece of real estate. But you could also go in the direction of the unsecured personal loan, right? If you come in through the organization and you decide that no, I want to get the unsecured personal loan. First, I want to buy a plot somewhere. Then, after 3 years, I apply for a top-up. I start building. That is also another direction that would enable you to actually own the home.
Okay.
One of the things that individuals find problematic, now this is with banks. This is something that, yes, let me talk about myself. One of the things I found problematic with banks when I first started banking, which was in the previous century, and was constantly being told about bank rules and how banks the things they don't do, as opposed to the things that they do. Now, the conversation we're having with you is different because you're telling us what banks do. Now, if we were to ask about the statistics, when somebody applies for a facility or a loan, do you have a process by which you can actually tell well ahead that this person doesn't qualify and will not be able to access this? And is it communicated? And two, is there a process by which they are told, in order to access, this is what now you need to do so that this hurdle is overcome?
Yes. We have that very clear process, and we actually give that feedback from the onset, right? So, for example, there are people who will come in and they've defaulted from another bank or from Fuliza or, from another proposition. So on CRB, you've been blacklisted. You've been flagged, right? And we will have that conversation with you and say, this is the reason why we are unable to lend you, because you took loan X or this, and this is what happened. In some cases, it's a system error, or it's something they actually repaid, but the data has not been captured on the other end. So we advise them, you need to go to your to either that other bank or to the bureaus and get the data sorted. If the customer is convicted that this is not the position. I actually don't have any bad debt. But if the customer actually acknowledges, yes, I have bad debt, then this is how you get out of it. Because remember, nobody's blacklisted perpetually, right? There is a mechanism for you to repay back, to finish, and then after a period of time, you are no longer blacklisted, because the aim even of the bureaus is not to deny people access to financing, but it's just also to show the financial institutions, who are the credit-worthy people and who are the people who are reneging on what they're supposed to be doing. So we have those conversations with them. And then for people who maybe just don't meet the criteria, they've not been blacklisted, but maybe you're applying for 5 million, but your pay slip or your business turnover says only 2 million you can access. So we'll tell you, we can start off with the 2 million, but for you to build up to 5 million, for example, this is what you need to do. This is the amount of money you need to ensure is passing through your account every month, so that your credit limit keeps on growing. So we have those conversations with people.
There is something that someone my age comes across with banks, is the limit that banks set as to at what age they can lend you money and at what age they cannot. What determines this age limit? What is it that banks look at, and why is it that they...
Okay, so that age limit actually comes in for salaried people most of the time, right? Because then for salaried people, there's the retirement age that comes into play. So for example, if you're getting a car loan or you're getting a home loan, right? The bank will calculate the age at which you are at to your retirement age. Because the proposition then is, once you reach retirement age, you no longer have a pay slip.
Income.
You no longer have a pay slip, so will not be able to recover the loan amounts, right? But if you're in business, there is no age limit for that, because you could be running a profitable business at 70, at 80. It is about the business turnover. It is not about the age of the person running the business. So that's the only distinction. Yeah.
Of people who are below the age of 30, in what category are they considered? Are they people whom, beyond just their age and the pay slip, are they considered to be, in terms of the risk factor, where does the bank put them?
Okay, so if you're below the age of 30 and you are employed, then your risk factor is lower, right? Because you have a longer period to retirement, so you have many more years to pay back whatever it is that you've borrowed. If you're below the age of 30 and then you're running a business, then what comes into play is how long have you run the business for. If it's 6 months old, that business is riskier than a business that is 5 years old, for example, right? But also the turnover of the business matters, right? So you can be running a business for only 2 years, but when we look at the flow of money over those 2 years, there's consistency. We can see you have a steady stream of customers. This is what you sell. This is how much you make on each particular month, right? The business is legit.
Yes.
So whether you're 26 or you're 40 doesn't really matter, because it's consistent factors that we look at from a business perspective, in terms of how does the money flow in, which business are you in, how are you repaying any other obligations that you have, is your turnover erratic or is it steady month on month, and that is what helps determine your credit score.
Sure. Yeah. The conversations that have holes in it then when it comes to access to credit, one of the biggest stumbling blocks towards business for people, whether it is the low risk that you talked about in terms of age or really high up the totem pole, access to credit is a big one, and that people's businesses fail because they don't have enough in terms of capital for injection or then credit to even kick off their business. So we hear you when you talk about the loans that are then available. How much deeper in that conversation then does I&M at work go to make sure that this isn't a stumbling block? Yes, we know that there's government policy and we know that there's different things that are being done or said to be done, but then where do you fall in this conversation when it comes to now removing some of those stumbling blocks towards a vibrant business economy?
So part of what we are actively doing, especially for the small businesses, is this and it's totally these pre-qualified loans, right? So we're encouraging as many small businesses as possible to join I&M, because based on that turnover of that business, however small or large it is, you will get pre-qualified for some amount and encouraging you to take advantage of that pre-qualification that you have. It's instant, it's on the app. You don't need to jump through so many hoops, with paperwork and with everything. Once you are on board with INM and we're already seeing how your business is operating, what sort of money we're getting on a month-on-month basis, we're able to offer you at least some amount, right? And the more you keep at it and keep repaying and growing your business, the more your limit increases, right? So that's a journey we are on with the small businesses, and then with the stock financing solution. So stock financing, what we also do is we also partner with what we call the anchor clients. So we might not go and look for the small businesses themselves directly, but we go to guys who are in FMCG business, for example, or are selling phones or are selling, electronics, and tell them, the people that you resell these goods to, let's offer this stock financing solution to them. So the anchor is sort of like the, the guarantor, so to speak, right? Because this smaller person might not have the might to come to INM directly, right? But for example, to give an example, we have that partnership with Crown Paints, we have it with Reddington. So the Crown Paints is like the guarantor, right? Because they know those guys who are buying this paint from them, right? And so they say, these are our customers. Yeah, we know them. They bring them to us, and then we offer them the stock finance solution based on the strength of our relationship with Crown Paints. Yeah.
What about getting people banked? Yesterday we had a conversation, and one of the things that came out was that, again, has been said before, but still though, that, a lower percentage of the population is banked as compared to the higher percentage of the population that is unbanked. So what's that race? Everybody in their institutions working to try and get people banked may have a commercial interest as to why they're doing it. But then there are advantages to having people on the system whereby certain things can happen. Where is the journey towards getting that happening?
So one of the big things we're about to announce in a couple of weeks is INM is actually going to be able to open an INM account for personal account holders directly on our app. So it means no visiting any branch, because that's the biggest blocker to people getting banked, first of all. Because banks traditionally is come to the branch, fill out the paperwork, get an account, right? Especially with the youth that City was talking about, they don't want to hear about that stuff, like going to a physical building. That's one thing they don't want to hear. So for us to bank them, we have to give them their solutions on the phone. So picture this as our journey for INM. You'll be able to download the app on your Play Store, from your Play Store or App Store, log in. It takes you through a journey. You upload your ID, you take a selfie, you upload, it opens an account, gives you an account number. It's a legit account, fully fledged account. From then on, you can access any of the other products or services, right? If you want a home loan, we can have that discussion. If you want the unsecured loan, either apply as an individual or tell your employer, me, I've already opened my INM account. See you sign up to this thing so that I can get the unsecured personal loan. That's a journey we want to take, especially for the youth, because if we don't offer that proposition on digital platforms, then we will not be able to bank and we will not be able to increase the number of accounts. That's where the other side of financial services that I will mention, the telco guys, that's where they have a one app, right? That's where there are very many mobile wallets, right? Especially in Kenya, but not banking accounts because of the ease of getting the account number. So that's something we are looking to fix, and I'll be coming back here to roll out that conversation with you guys.
In fact, you've actually answered the question I was going to ask, because I was going to ask now specifically, surely there's this huge population and there's this huge market that isn't met with young people. I was going to ask, what specifically do you have in play to attract them? But you have answered the question.
Thank you.
But let me ask, I think we are almost, our time is doing what it is. If there's one sector that in many ways one argues has not actually tapped into the potential that it has, it's the banking sector. Because the number of unbanked Kenyans are many. And yet the potential for them to be banked exists because they seek these financial services elsewhere. Okay? Now, as a banker, is this something you consider to be just a healthy competition, or do you feel that this is a competition you should take seriously because they're actually taking away business from you?
Competition we should take seriously, because yes, it is taking away business from the traditional bank, but there's also lots of opportunity for partnerships, right? With those same, like for example, with the telcos, because there's certain propositions that make sense for us to offer together bringing the strength and the might of the bank and the asset book and everything that can be offered and the ease and convenience that they offer. So there's certain areas where we can partner, to offer more pragmatic, more realistic solutions to Kenyans, especially the unbanked, especially the very bottom of the pyramid. And then there is a place where banks and as INM that we have to stand up and take our piece of the pie just by also offering things more conveniently, more accessible, making them more accessible, but by not losing that touch that the banks have always had, which is the relationship aspect, which misses completely from the other side. Banks have been able to build up over time, especially with businesses, because of the conversations and the relationship aspect and the give and take, that leads to businesses then being able to scale up and to prosper. So that's how I would say as INM we are approaching this situation.
Banks are known to be conservative. Are you saying that banks now want to become adventurous, more specifically INM?
I think even just to speak for INM, I'd say, without any fear, INM has is actually changing how it has always been perceived. You have banked with INM for a long time.
I bank with INM.
Exactly. INM was traditionally known as a corporate bank, right? As a bank for businesses, especially big businesses, and also as a bank for the more affluent individuals, right? But now we are actually playing in the retail space, right? With our free bank to mobile wallet, Nisari Kabisa campaign, with this unsecured personal loan, we are actually speaking to Kenyans in the mass market, in the affluent mass market segment and saying, INM is the bank for you. You might not have thought of INM 2 years ago. You might not even have had name recognition for INM 2 years ago. But now we are a relevant force to play with in the retail segment in the market. So yes, we are breaking out of the mold and changing the perception of the brand and actually putting money where our mouth is by offering tangible solutions and services for that segment of the market.
Actually, you don't have to be specific. The thing that I found unique and exceedingly useful with INM is your multi-currency debit card.
Yes.
It works seamlessly.
Thank you.
Yes. I know this because in the time when I used to travel, I had other cards which didn't work seamlessly. In fact, some worked embarrassingly.
Yes.
The lead that you don't want.
No, the glare it puts on you is a glare you don't need.
Yeah.
But the I&M multi-currency card, I was so pleasantly surprised. It actually opened my eyes to something that I didn't know was even possible.
Yes.
Simply going, for instance, to a different country and seeking that currency that is usable in that country and getting it.
Right.
Directly from the ATM.
Direct from that ATM. Now, that to me was a monumental eye-opener.
And that's what INM is about.